Right now, friend Katie Pavlich with us here on the program. Katie, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Cam?
I am excellent. Thanks for coming on the program. Congratulations on the release of your new book, Assault and Flattery.
Thank you so much. I'm excited. It's been a really good week, so I'm excited about the book. It's number 2, and I think it's going to be hopefully eye-opening for a lot of people, and I'm happy that it's finally here.
That is awesome. So this is the subtitle here, because every book has to have a title and then the subtitle, The Truth About the Left and Their War on Women. And, look, there's probably never a bad time for this to come out, Katie, but this is, I think, a really good time, given that this is one of the primary election year memes that we know that the left is trying to use here to drive up voter participation on their side.
Well, and the most important thing is looking at the 2012 election and how it was very successful on the left. And I've found through, just my other work that the left tends to accuse their opponents of exactly what they're doing. So when they're accusing conservatives or Republicans of having a war on women, I had to go off and say, maybe I should be taking a look at what they're doing, because usually when they're accusing someone of something, they're engaging it in themselves, and started doing a lot of research and came to the conclusion that Democrats have a very shaky history when it comes to women. Everything from, leaving women to drown and die in their cars, to sexual assault, to bad government policies that make women more dependent on government, which limits their freedom, limits their options, limits their opportunities. And so it's a whole range of different aspects. I also have an entire chapter in the book about gun control and how that is a very much a war on women, in taking away their rights to protect themselves or their families. And so there's a lot of different angles to that argument. I like the word flattery in the title, because the definition of flattery is offering false compliments in order to gain something personally, and that's exactly how I think Democrats treat women. I've seen, I came away from 2012 presidential election, which I covered very closely. I was on the campaign trail a lot. And the message that I got from the Democrats was they want women to be dependent on government, not independent from it. And I don't think that's a very good pathway forward for this country or for women who are going to the voting booth. So I'm hoping that this will kind of show the other side and push back on their bogus lies and miscalculations and really mistreatment of women, both physically but also intellectually as well.
We were talking with Ed Morrissey from Hot Air earlier today about this new Economist YouGov poll on the Hobby Lobby decision, showing, again, I think a very divided response, among women, actually, and even those who feel strongly about the Hobby Lobby decision one way or the other. It's not as if this poll shows, some sort of ideological majority among women who say this is the worst decision ever. Does this attack on women, this war on women theme, do you think it has diminishing returns? As you say, it was very successful in 2012, but does it have the potential to be as successful in 2014, or looking ahead a couple of years to 2016?
It definitely has the potential to be successful if Republicans don't respond to it in a way that is sufficient. So in 2012, and I actually interviewed Mitt Romney for this book about the whole binders full of women discussion, and his response to that was pretty interesting and a little bit disappointing, to be quite honest. And, the war on women accusation coming from the left to the right can be defeated if we simply address it. If you look at the Ken Cuccinelli versus Terry McAuliffe race in Virginia more recently, the reason why Ken Cuccinelli was crucified on the, quote, women's rights issues is because he never really took them on head on. They decided not to talk about it. The same thing happened in the 2012 campaign. They really just kind of gave the American electorate more credit and really viewed, a conversation about birth control and contraception as below the public discourse in terms of what we should be talking about. But then that essentially allows the left to paint a blank canvas of what their opponent is looking like. If they don't define themselves, then they're defined by the left. Chris Christie beat in his most recent election, was running against a woman, gave his position on everything, on abortion and contraception right away, said take it or leave it, and he ended up winning in a landslide against a very liberal female. So addressing it quickly and swiftly is a way to kind of take that back. But also, I get the question a lot, too, about why do young single women vote for liberals? And I say, look, you can't fault them for not knowing something they'd never been told. So if you think about it, these women have gone through the public school system. They get to their college campuses, and all they're hearing is this liberal, bogus arguments coming from these women's studies programs, from the women's groups on campus, from the women's department, the women's resource center, are all telling them that they're victims, that they're sometimes repackaging victimization as empowerment, and telling them lies about, where their contraception is coming from. And you can't blame these young women for only getting that side of the story, because no one has told them the other side. And so I'm hoping that this book will kind of get them to that other side, because it exists. It's just that you can't fault someone for not knowing something if they've never been told what it's all about.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think, look, among conservatives, we're really good at identifying where these problems lie. But we're not as good, I think, about simply saying, all right, well, there's where our challenges are. Now let's go take care of them. And so, as you say, we complain a lot about the memes and say, well, this is ridiculous. This is not what conservatism is about. This is not what the GOP is about. But unless you're actually, as you say, talking to these people, talking to voters as real people, talking to these women as real people, I think you're bound to be disappointed if you just look at single women as a voting block rather than trying to actually connect with them and figuring out, all right, well, why is it that we're not? Why is it that this War on Women theme was so successful when that's not what we feel we are? So I guess to that end, how much soul searching does the conservative movement need to do on this issue?
I think they need to do a ton of soul searching, because if you look at the polling data and the exit polling and the fact that Mitt Romney lost by 10 points to Barack Obama with the single women's vote, a lot of the 2012 election really actually hinged on that vote. And so it really matters moving forward that they address it, because not only do they need to address it and kind of stem the tide of that vote, but I think that they can pull some votes over. Anytime you ask a woman if she wants to be independent, she's going to, no matter what side of the political aisle she's on, or she thinks she's on anyway, she's going to say, of course. And your follow-up question is, well, then why would you want to be dependent on a government that's run by mostly men, right? Anyone's going to tell you that. And so it's important to point out that, dependency is not empowering, even regardless of what the left is saying. And you have to talk about how the free market and hard work actually gets women ahead, not victimization. And you also have to point out, too, that how demeaning and sexist is it for Democrats to define women by the pills that they take? I always go back to the 2012 campaign and look at the life of Julia. And, of course, just a refresher, they had this slideshow from the Obama campaign showing that this woman was dependent on government from the day that she was born to the day that she died for everything she ever needed. But why is it that they never had a Life of John available? Is it really that Democrats think so less of women, and that they're so weak that they are the only ones who really need to be depending on the government for everything? I mean, there wasn't a Life of John, and yet there was no pushback on that. So I think pointing those things out is really important.
Katie, again, I really appreciate you coming on the program, and I'm just gonna say I appreciate you writing about this. My daughter is a single woman who's in her 20s, and as I said earlier in the show, after she's home, and we've been talking this week, and I can tell you, her big issues are not contraception. They're not the Hobby Lobby decision. She's worried about being able to pay off her student loan. She's worried about being able to get ahead. It'd be nice if she could maybe work one job and not two jobs before she turns 30. These are the major concerns in her life. They're really not different than the concerns of married women or married men or single men all across this country right now. These are the real concerns, I think, of real Americans.
Well, and I think it's also very inappropriate for the left to constantly, whenever they see a female, judge her by her gender and immediately dive into the issue of her contraception. It used to be taboo and frowned upon to comment on a woman's dress, right? Don't ever tell a woman she looks nice in a dress or comment on that. Let's talk about what she actually cares about. But now, all of a sudden, in the year 2012, 2014, it is totally appropriate for some reason to openly talk about the most intimate medication a woman might take, right? I mean, it just makes no sense at all when it comes to the privacy issue. Why is it okay for Democrats and the left to exploit women and expose their privacy, all in the name of selling false accusations, telling lies, and using women as political pawns? And you're a dad. I mean, this book is about women, but it's for everyone, because, when you see what the left has been doing and what they've been telling people, and if you take a look at actually the history of the Republican Party, and that they were the ones who actually voted to get women the right to vote, what the Democrats have done affects everyone, and it affects everyone's pocketbook as well.
Katie, really appreciate you coming on the program. Hope you have a great success with this book, and look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thank you so much. We always appreciate it.
Me too. Katie Pavlich joining us from Town Hall and Fox News. Again, the new book is out now, Assault and Flattery.